I'm desperate for you to hear me because I'm done pretending your silence doesn't tear pieces out of me every day. I wish you could feel the weight of the words I never send. They could crush the distance between us. I'm desperate for you to hear me out because I still remember when you used to care about what I had to say. I'm not asking for forever, just a moment of truth between us before everything turns into regret. I'm desperate for you to hear me because it hurts knowing I'm fighting for someone who stopped listening long ago. I don't need your pity. I just need you to acknowledge that my love was real, even if it wasn't enough. I'm desperate for you to hear me out before my silence becomes the only language I have left. I've tried to move on quietly, but every part of me still screams your name. When I close my eyes, I'm desperate for you to listen, not to fix anything, just to understand how much it cost me to love you. I kept waiting for the right time to speak, but now I realize the right time was every time you ignored me. I'm desperate for you to hear me out because you're the only one who knows the version of me that still believes in love. Every word I send feels like knocking on a door that no one intends to open anymore. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, not because I can't live without you, but because I once thought I couldn't. You'll never understand how painful it is to beg for attention from the one who once couldn't stop giving it. I'm desperate for you to listen because silence feels like punishment for sins I never committed. I never imagined love would end, not with shouting, but with unread messages and fading notification. I'm desperate for you to hear me out because every second of your silence feels like a slow goodbye. You don't realize how much I've changed. I no longer want to win you back, just to be heard once I'm desperate for you to hear me. Because closure shouldn't have to come from unanswered messages. I've replayed every word you didn't say, and somehow that silence hurts louder than any goodbye. I'm desperate for you to hear me out before I teach myself how to forget your voice completely. I don't want to be dramatic, but this silence feels like emotional starvation, and I've been starving for too long. I'm desperate for you to hear me because my heart still trembles whenever I see your name light up my screen. I'm tired of writing messages that sound strong when all I want to say is, please just answer me. I'm desperate for you to hear me because love shouldn't feel like begging for basic attention. You used to listen, like my words meant something. Now, even my pain feels invisible to you. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, not to change the past, but to stop it from haunting my present. I've learned that silence can kill love faster than lies ever could. I'm desperate for you to hear me because I can't keep pretending indifference while my heart burns in private. I wish you could see how hard it is to let go of someone who won't even hear you one last time. I'm desperate for you to hear me out because if I don't say this now, I'll carry the ache forever. It's strange. I never realized how fragile love was until your silence made it collapse in my hands. I'm desperate for you to listen because you were the only one who made me believe my emotions weren't too much. I've stopped expecting replies. Now I just whisper my truth into the dark, hoping it finds your heart somehow. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, not because I can't move on, but because I deserve to be understood. You silence me, yet wonder why I've become so distant. Maybe this is what your ignorance created. I'm desperate for you to hear me because your absence still echoes louder than your presence ever did. I want to explain how love turned into confusion and confusion into quiet heartbreak. I'm desperate for you to hear me out because pretending I don't care is the hardest lie I've ever told. I used to think love was about speaking from the heart. Now I know it's about surviving when no one listens. I'm desperate for you to hear me because closure isn't found in silence. It's born from the courage to speak. You used to hang on to my every word. Now I can't even get your attention for a second. I'm desperate for you to hear me because I'm still haunted by the idea that maybe you just stopped trying. I wanted to tell you everything I've been holding in, but I'm terrified my honesty will scare you away again. I'm desperate for you to hear me out before I finally accept that you no longer care to understand me. I've realized that being ignored by someone you love feels like being erased while you're still alive. I'm desperate for you to hear me because my love deserves to be acknowledged. Even if it's over, I wanted to talk, not to fix the past, but to thank you for teaching me what silence really means. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, not because I crave attention, but because silence between us feels like death itself. I never begged for anyone's time before, but your distance has turned me into someone who pleads for just one reply. I'm not trying to start a fight. I'm trying to save what's left of the love we built before silence took over. Every word I want to say is trembling inside me, but your unread messages feel louder than any scream. I'm desperate for you to listen, because if you walk away now, you'll never understand the depth of what I felt for you. I wish you'd just pause and look at me long enough to see how much I'm breaking beneath this calm voice. I'm not angry. I'm exhausted from carrying conversations that never reach your heart anymore. You keep pretending you don't notice, but my silence is full of everything I've been dying to tell you. I don't want to fight. I just want you to hear the version of me that still believes in us. I'm desperate for you to hear me out because my love isn't loud. It's just quietly falling apart while waiting for you. Every time you ignore me, I feel my worth slipping through the cracks of what we once called love. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to remind you that some souls are worth listening to before they fade away. I stayed because I believed you'd finally hear me. But maybe silence is your answer after all. I'm not begging for attention. I'm begging for acknowledgement that I mattered, that I existed in your world. If I could pour my heart into one last voice note, it would sound like a storm trying to speak before it dies. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, because this time it's not about love, it's about closure. You always said communication was key, but now you're the one locking every door I try to open. I wish you'd realize that silence doesn't solve pain. It just buries it deeper inside the ones who care. I'm not trying to guilt you. I just want you to feel the echo of everything I never got to say. Sometimes the loudest "I miss you" hides in the quiet desperation of a heart left unread. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, not because I'm weak, but because I still believe in second chances. If only you'd listen without judgment, you'd see that all I ever wanted was understanding, not perfection I can't keep screaming into silence. If you don't respond soon, my heart will learn how to stop trying. I wish you knew how many times I've typed and deleted my feelings just to avoid scaring you away. I'm desperate for you to hear me because your absence has turned my heartbeat into an unanswered question. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a moment to explain what your silence has done to me. You call it space. I call it slow emotional suffocation. I'm desperate for you to hear me out because every ignored message feels like another piece of me fading away. If you could feel my thoughts tonight, you'd know I'm not angry, just heartbroken that you stopped caring. I'm not here to win you back. I just want you to know that I loved you louder than your silence. Every time I try to speak, I imagine you scrolling past my pain like it's just another post. I'm desperate for you to hear me out before the version of me that loved you disappears completely. If love means anything, it should mean listening, even when it's inconvenient. I never wanted to beg, but love turns the proudest hearts into whispers asking to be heard. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, not because I'm lost, but because you were the only map I trusted. Maybe you'll only understand me once you miss the voice that once begged you to listen. I'm not trying to make you stay. I just want to leave knowing I finally spoke my truth. I've written 1,000 versions of this message in my head, but none sound as raw as my silence tonight. I'm desperate for you to hear me because my love has reached the edge of breaking and I don't know how to pull it back. Ignoring me doesn't erase what happened, it just kills what could have been healed. I'm not asking you to fix anything, just to hear the heart that still beats your name. Maybe you think I'm dramatic, but silence from the one you love is the cruelest kind of noise. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, because this time it's not about love, it's about letting go with honesty. I stayed quiet too long, thinking you'd notice. Now I realize silence never gets noticed until it's too late. I'm desperate for you to hear me because I'm tired of being the only one who still believes in us. Don't mistake my tears for weakness. They're just love, trying to escape before it drowns me. I'm desperate for you to hear me out, not for attention, but because closure deserves a voice too. Every ignored text is a funeral for a piece of my hope. I'm not angry that you don't reply. I'm angry that I still wait for you to.